Mute while Mary Barbera here, and I am so happy to be here. And I have three of my favorite people along with me from the Turn Autism Around courses. These are my coaches, and we have worked hard to produce this 5 days to more talking coaching week, which concluded last Friday. We had live videos Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week. I went live yesterday, and we did a webinar kind of summary. If you haven't seen that and you want to take a peek, you can look at that. But today, no slide presentation. It's just a discussion because this is the last day, full day to join our full online toddler course or our school age course. The link to join is marybarbera.com/join now. That's where you can find all the details. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but I want to take your questions. Any questions you have about the challenge, the assessment, the planning, table time. We didn't cover in the 5-day coaching week a lot about evaluation using easy data. Because we simply ran out of time. But the 5 days were jam-packed. Actually, I think a little bit too much information because people are feeling a little bit overwhelmed. But you guys all did a fantastic job with the 5-day coaching week. I saw a lot of assessments, graphics posted. It was very exciting to see that every single one, I don't know about you guys, every single one of the assessments that were posted were kids that we definitely could help, whether parents or professionals, toddlers or teens. These assessments showed us that the exact right people, and we had 450 people join our coaching week. Now we are broadcasting this outside of the 5-day group, but we're pretty much going to talk to the 5-day group because these are the people that invested a small amount with us to learn the Turn Autism Around approach. And I think we're all, we just met before we came on live, and we all just, said how successful this was, that people really dug in and did a lot of work last week to get to this point. But now we are going to archive the group probably tomorrow. The videos, the 5 days of videos are going to be moved over to our main membership portal. But we really do want to encourage everybody in the More Talking group to come with us over to either the toddler course or the school age course. We have separate communities and separate courses, but they're very, very similar content, same module names, same ideas. But in the school age group course, which we just created in the late spring, we have some case studies with older kids and some talking about IEPs and things that become bigger issues with older kids. And then with the younger kids, we talk about, a little bit about pacifiers and bottles and those sorts of things. So, and then to give the whole full community support. But I'm going to stop talking. So, all the details are at marybarbera.com/join now. So we're going to take that off the screen for a second because I want to introduce my coaches or have them introduce themselves and just very briefly, and then we're going to take your questions. So if you have questions, whether you're in the 5-day group or anywhere else, ask them below and we will try to get to them. So Rachel, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I am Rachel Smith. I am, the program director. I've been with Mary's company now for about a year and a half, but I've known Mary for over half my life at this point. Started as like a mommy's helper, working with Lucas. I still work with Lucas, and enjoy having him around our family. We have 2 little boys. They are 4 and 21 months old. So I'm just really energized by last week and, the big group that we had. And I really hope to see more join us in the community and, get this approach out to more people.
Yeah. And Rachel also has a degree, a master's degree in special education, and used the whole turn autism around approach. All of the coaches know, they watched all my courses, helped me create my courses, and really know my work. So it's awesome to have Rachel with me. And she's my only full-time employee with me. So just love Rachel. And I met her when she was 14. So yeah, she's been with me forever. All right, Kelsey, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kelsey. I am a mom to two boys who are now 9 and 7, both with autism. But I found Mary's courses back in 2016 and took them when my oldest was just 2.5 years old. And I've now been the community manager for Mary and the courses for many years, I think 2017. And I've just had a lot of fun creating the courses and helping. I'm often in the groups answering all the questions as you get stuck. And it's been fun to see the questions posted in the 5 days group. And I'm excited. One of the things I loved about the 5-day group is all the intros were just so exciting and everyone was so involved. And I was just like, wow, these people need to be in the full courses because they are gung-ho and ready to learn. And so I hope many of you join our community. Our community is probably one of the best parts of the internet because it's just whenever you get stuck, we answer your questions in a pretty timely manner. And then there's also always old course participants there and just people sharing a lot of successes with the courses, which is a lot of fun to see.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, Kelsey's also a big part of the Turn Autism Around podcast. She comes on about once a month, twice a month. She does a lot of, in addition to community manager, she also helps me a lot on the back end producing the podcast. And yeah, we've all been learning and growing together. And I had the privilege of meeting Kelsey and her boys last summer. I happened to be on a cruise that stopped in Canada, and Kelsey took a ferry and all these ways to get from her place in British Columbia, Canada, out to where I was, and we met, and it was so much fun to be able to meet in person. But yeah, so that was special. We had wanted to meet back in 2020. That was our goal, and then we all know what happened then. But it's amazing how close a team can get. Like, I've never met Michelle in person, but I feel like very close. So Michelle, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
I would love to. Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle, and I've been a part of this community since 2020 when my first daughter, Elena, was diagnosed with autism. And I have another daughter as well, neurotypical. She's 3. And I have been a Facebook advisor since about 2021 for Mary's company. And I'm also a coach now for the Turn Autism Around approach and our Train the Trainer programs and those types of things. So I loved seeing everybody participate in the coaching week. That was so much fun. I loved just such a huge turnout, and it was just so valuable, I think, for everybody. The courses changed my life, my daughter's life, and my whole family's life. And I'm just really happy that you're here to join us to learn more today.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, we're going to be hearing from the coaches, like, Michelle's story a little bit more later, but we want to start by answering some questions that we got so far. So Rachel, why don't you take the lead on asking us the questions, and we'll see who wants to answer them.
Yeah, we have quite a few coming in already. So one of the first ones I'll ask is, I have a 22-month-old who has no eye contact and is not responding to their name. Is there something I can do to help with this?
Yeah. So our toddler course, so it's marybarbera.com/join now. Our toddler course has parents and professionals from all over the world who are trying to help kids 1 to 5 years of age with autism, but about 50% of our participants actually do not have an autism diagnosis, at least when their parent starts the course and introduces themselves. So you don't have time to wait for a diagnosis. Some of the waiting lists are 9 months to 2 years, and that was before COVID. And so our approach, and many people that joined the 5 Days to More Talking coaching week had a diagnosis of speech delay. And it's totally normal to come into our group without a diagnosis. We use all child-friendly positive strategies. And it's great for any kid, even if it's typically developing kid. So Rachel, your son was speech delayed when you during COVID. So and you used the course and the positive approach with both your kids, right?
Yeah. So Everett, who's now 4, was pretty severely speech delayed. Wasn't meeting his milestones at his 18-month well check, his 2-year well check, his 2.5-year-old well check. And at his 2-year well check, we were offered the option to get a speech referral because they officially put speech delay on his paperwork at that point. And my biggest concern with that was he wasn't going to sit for a half an hour, once a week for a Zoom speech, session. So I really took it into my own hands at that point. And this is before I was even working with the Turn Autism Around approach. I was just consuming the information at that point. And so I really wanted to do everything that I could to help close the gap for him. And I told his doctor at that appointment that I was really going to do everything I could at home. And then if, at his 3-year or 2.5-year appointment, we were still not meeting or we were still this far behind, then I would, sign up for speech. But I really thought that I could get a handle on it. So by his 2.5-year checkup, he was echoing me finally because I couldn't get him. I was, I would even say to Mary, what am I doing wrong? I listened at that point to all the podcasts. I've, read the first book. I was hoping to read through the second book. What am I missing? He just would not repeat anything I said. So she, gave me some ideas and things that you'll learn in the course. And I was really using them a lot, had my husband totally buy in and anything I was doing, he was doing too. And then by 3, Everett had met all of his speech milestones. And then just this, at 4, they're saying that his vocabulary is extensive. It's beyond same age peers. So that was exciting for a kid who really until 2.5 was almost silent, had very few pop out words, wasn't saying a lot. I look back on videos and he was really quiet. And then we have our second son, Ronan, who is advanced in speech, but we're using a lot of the techniques that are in the course for typical toddler tantrums to avoid, those kind of things. And, it's often we're out in the community and get complimented for, our boys' behaviors. And I credit a lot of that to the Turn Autism Around approach because it works for all kids. It's not just, kids who are on the spectrum. It's just great parenting.
Why don't you tell everybody watching about your interaction at a restaurant just last week?
Yeah, so we took the boys for dinner after we had done a family day, and they were sitting quietly. We, because of this course, I know that we are always thinking ahead. So I had coloring books and crayons and all of the things that we could possibly need to keep them entertained, to be reinforcing while we were sitting and waiting. And an older woman was sitting by herself, and she turned around at one point and was just I just want to tell you, you guys are doing a really great job. And it's so refreshing to be at a restaurant where kids are sitting quietly. They're, enjoying their family. You guys are laughing and having a great time. She goes, would it be okay if I sent them ice cream? We were at Friendly's. So she was like, would it be okay if I sent them ice cream? And we were like, oh yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate that. But, and then the boys were so excited. And, so Everett's maybe if I'm good all the time, I'll get ice cream at restaurants. And we were like, well, we'll have to see. But it was just really nice. Like, it was reinforcing for them because they were behaving and this is what happens. But it was reinforcing for us as parents that, although sometimes it feels like we're doing, more because we're trying to always make sure that our kids are well behaved and we're, constantly thinking ahead. It was reinforcing because it works and people are noticing.
Yeah. And Rachel's been on the podcast a few times because even watching the courses and things, she got a little stuck and Everett started hitting and throwing things. And we managed to get that all near 2-0.
Yep.
He doesn't throw or hit anymore. And he didn't, within days of my advice. So, that's the kind of support, like, even if you know the information, even if you're a professional and you're like, I'm already a behavior analyst. I don't really think this is different. I really think it's way different. And I know we have a question here, like, how much does it cost? All the details are at marybarbera.com/join now. We're not going to get into what's included and all that. We just encourage you to go take a look. And if you're in the 5-day group, our welcome call is Thursday. So we are kind of closing this window of opportunity, get our cohort formed at midnight. So we really do want to. We already have dozens of you in the full course. So you're going to have a big cohort. Not too big, but we're going to do a welcome call. We're going to, you already did a lot of the homework. For the first module or two. So you're going to be able to tweak that homework. I know we have a question about the assessment and plan into the plan, and then if you're watching elsewhere, it's a great time to join the course because you can tag along in the cohort and you can get these special bonuses. We have actually some unannounced bonuses that are going to be in the portal for everybody joining now. Some video clips that I think will really be eye-opening. So Rachel, why don't we get to that question about the planning?
Great. So it basically, to summarize, it said that, it's easy to find the strengths and the needs list on the planning form, but it's more difficult. They're having a hard time kind of creating the plan from those lists.
Yeah. So in the 5 days, the first day we talked about assessment, which is the first step of the Turn Autism Around approach. And we encourage you to do the digital assessment, which was amazing to see all these graphics. So the digital assessment is free if you haven't taken it yet. Wherever you're listening, it's free. I said it would be free for the first 1,000 people. More than 20,000 people have taken the digital assessment. marybarbera.com/assessment to get that. So then on day 2, we taught you how to take the assessment and find your child's strengths and needs and to develop a very, very preliminary plan below that. So getting the strengths and needs from the assessment is such a good skill for you, whether it's your child or your client, because your child's going to change and grow. And so every time you do an assessment, you can find your strengths and needs. And then the preliminary plan is such that as you join the full course, even then, you kind of have to make a preliminary plan, like maybe sleeping is a need, like the child doesn't sleep through the night, wakes in the middle of the night, insists on sleeping with you. Maybe they have, maybe they're not potty trained and they're 4 years old, or maybe they're not potty trained and they're 2 years old. So if they aren't potty trained and they're 2 years old, I would not recommend putting that in the plan, at least until you get through the full 60-day course and you watch the potty training bonus video, and maybe your child shows some readiness skills, which we go over in the bonus video. But if your child is 4 and not potty trained, I would certainly put that in the planning section as potty training. Not that you start that tomorrow or next week. You have to get into the full course and learn how to improve self-care, daily activities, language and learning, and problem behaviors. if the child is not running to the table or walking eagerly to the table, it's likely that they're not going to walk calmly and happily to the potty. And if you're not walking happily to the potty, the chances of you successfully potty training are pretty slim. So we help you through that. So the planning section is very, very preliminary at this point. And even in the beginning of the 60-day course, you're going to change as you watch the course, as you watch modules 2 on problem behavior, as you watch module 3 on table time and getting early language going, as you watch module 4 about feeding and other self-care skills, as you watch module 5 about expanding your table time, you're going to be revising your plan as you go. So this was just day 2 of developing your preliminary plan was just that. It was just a very broad stroke across the canvas.
Mary, that brings up a good question. You had talked about potty training, and we have a couple of questions about potty training and if we address that in the course and you know how that works. 2 of them are actually about 7-year-olds. So I don't know if one of you wants to
so if you have a 7-year-old, we have 9 bonuses, including a potty training bonus that is really good. So within the full course. So a 7-year-old, definitely that should be on the plan. But like I said, you need to learn more. It's a whole process. And I'm both a registered nurse and a behavior analyst. So I do have more expertise in potty training than, yeah. Rachel, I don't know if you know this, but your camera's off. So I don't know if we lost Rachel or maybe she had an issue. Anyway, Kelsey, you have anything, any questions, or do you want to add anything?
I don't, in the questions, I think the potty training bonus videos are great for all ages, especially if you're restarting potty training with older kids at 7 years old or just starting. I know personally I've helped families and kids with these approaches who are that age and older to potty train when families weren't sure that their kids would ever be potty trained. So they definitely work. So come join us for that. We also have a question on of a child who's 8 years old who does have some words and now he's struggling to comprehend. Would the courses be good for that age as well?
Absolutely. So we recently developed a school age course. It goes very much the same as the toddler course in terms of assessment, making that plan, you know, of course, potty training, comprehension, speaking, you know, if whether you're 8 or whether you're 2, it doesn't matter. You just get into the course and you find your starting point and you move forward from there. So, yeah. So I see Rachel, you got back on. Is everything
Sorry.
okay?
Yeah, we have appliance people here, and that was just a problem. And so moving in the middle of
Rachel moved houses last week in the middle of our 5-day. And if you need to go, Rachel.
No, we're good. I signed. We're good.
Okay.
He finished earlier than he thought he was going to be finished.
Okay.
So anyway, we ready for another question?
Yep.
Okay. So here's one about a grandson who's 6 and is really good with numbers, but not using a lot of words. Doesn't have a lot of direct eye contact, and he runs around a lot, doesn't like to sit. Would these be considered signs of autism, or it just says signs? So.
Yeah. And he's 6 years old. Yeah. So if he's not talking a lot and then hyper focus on letters and numbers and reading before you can speak well, and can be a sign of autism. It's called hyperlexia. And I've done some work on that. We talk about that a fair amount in our groups. But the key is that you start at the beginning, start with an assessment plan. And for your 5-day people, you're like, well, I already did the assessment and plan. So won't it be repetitive? No, it won't. Actually, we show you a lot more videos about how you assess as well as possible. We help you with that planning section. And then there's whole module on problem behaviors. And it's so important. even after Rachel did all the courses and worked with me to create the Turn Tantrums Around course, she was still making some key mistakes that was reinforcing Everett hitting and throwing, which was really remediated well with just a few little tips and tricks. Um, and Everett also is the cute little boy on the cover photo of all the 5-day. So Rachel's also been very everybody you see here has been very gracious with letting us share their videos and their pictures. Michelle has an incredible story. Michelle, what you said the course has changed your life. So why don't you just refresh anybody that hasn't heard your story with your story?
Of course. Yeah. So around 18 months of age is when I started noticing delays with Elena. And honestly, thinking back, it was sooner than that. But when I took her for a well visit when she was 18 months old, they said she should have 6 words, and she really didn't have any functional language. She had a couple of pop out words like mom, doggy, but did not use them functionally, just kind of said them. She did not look at me when she said mommy, and she just had a pretty steep progression around 18 months. And then I had my second daughter in 2019 in December, and she took an even steeper decline and regression with heavy, massive, crazy tantrums with self-injurious behavior where she's scratching herself to the point of bleeding. It was so severe she couldn't transition and walk through doorways to a different location. She could walk around our home, but if someone walked into our home, she was screaming on the floor for 45 minutes because she couldn't handle the change or transition. And taking her to a doctor's appointment, she couldn't walk through the doorway if there was a loud air conditioning unit above. And it was just a very difficult situation when she was 2 years old in 2020. So I did get services in place for her.
She got a diagnosis in February of 2020 when she was 2, right?
Yes, in February. And I set up all her services in February, but then in March, before she could really even get started with anything, everything shut down for COVID. So I was left with nothing. I found your course, I think at midnight or 1 a.m. Because I was overwhelmed and looking for anything I could do to help her at home because nothing was available for me to help her with. And I wasn't sure what to do. I have a teaching background and in middle and high school social studies. And I had no earthly idea how to catch up developmentally a 2-year-old that's exhibiting such severe delays. So like she could just had no interest in me at all. I bought it wasn't through lack of effort. I bought tons of toys for her, and I tried to engage her with those, but I didn't know how to do it properly. I didn't have the strategies in place. So like I said, I found your course at midnight or 1 a.m. one night, and I joined a workshop for free, and then I took a leap of faith and signed up before I even told my husband about it. And our life just completely changed. Just starting the course feeling so overwhelmed and just devastated to getting that comforting step-by-step instructions on how to assess my child, how to make a plan, how to teach, how to, and before that, how to prevent problem behaviors, then how to teach and to evaluate. And then the community that you have available to you. It's not just a course you buy online and you're alone. I mean, you have this community of people who are in the same boat as you. And I felt like I was completely alone before. I didn't think anyone would understand what I was going through. But this is a community. It's not just a course. It's a community full of parents and professionals who are struggling with the same things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and your daughter went from, I remember you posting this, and Michelle's been on a couple podcasts where we tell her story. She tells her story, which is amazing. But Elena went from her first language sample. She had 2 words, mommy and dog, or doggy and mom. And then in an hour, she had 2 words. And then she finished the course. It's 60 days of access, but she finished the course in 33 days. And that she also did a language sample then, which is part of the course. and set a timer for an hour, and she got 180 words and phrases, contractions, prepositions, pronouns in 33 days with just the course. She had no therapy, no Zoom therapy, no people coming in. She had a husband who's a police officer, so he was out. Michelle was home alone with Elena, who was 2, and really having a hard time as of February. She was home with also a 3-month-old baby. So you made miraculous I mean, like, really one of the best success stories I know. And then people ask, well, what happens after 60 days? And Michelle moved on to the verbal behavior bundle, watched all of that. Elena started ABA therapy. And in one of our lessons on day 3, we talked about the mistakes people make. So at the ABA clinic, they were trying to teach her carrier phrases and things like that. And Michelle was like, wait. No, we're going to try to let the language develop as naturally as possible. And luckily, the ABA clinic was willing to work with Michelle, and she didn't stay at the ABA clinic that long. She became, conversational, and now she's getting ready for kindergarten, right?
Yeah, with no support. So I really, truly, if you would have told me that this is what Elena's life would be like now, back in 2020, when we were having all of these problems, I wouldn't believe you. I would never believe you. I really, truly am just so grateful for this program.
Yeah. Yeah. And now Michelle's a coach, and it's just a full circle. So,
Yeah.
so Kelsey, I know you have a great story too, but we did get a question in, like, so this doesn't work for everybody, right? Like, if I join the course, like, they're skeptical that it's going to work for them. So can you address that?
Yeah, as the community manager, I mean, I've seen people go through this course for years. And as long as you're watching the modules, especially in order, when you get stuck, you're not just getting stuck and getting frustrated, but you're asking our community, you're engaging, you're always ready to learn and get unstuck. Everybody makes progress. Everybody makes different progress. For some people, the progress may be their children are no longer tantruming all day. Maybe it's down to 0. Maybe they've learned positive techniques, how to engage their kids. Maybe kids that were sitting, really unengaged all day are now part of their families more. Kids who weren't talking are now talking. Kids who weren't echoing might not be talking yet, but now they're echoing sounds, and now we're ready to move to the next step. There are varying levels of progress, but I have never seen a case where someone didn't have some wins. And in this world of developmental delays or special needs parenting, wherever you are in your journey, that's really the key, is to find the small wins, be really pumped about them, and teach the next right thing. And that's what the courses help everyone do, is meet you where you're at, and let's make a plan, and let's look at the next right thing. So.
And Kelsey, you have 2 boys on the spectrum, Brentley and Lincoln, and they're very different. And so they have very, from the start, they were different with their signs. They were different with their trajectories. So can you speak to the differences between your boys in terms of, like, we help, a wide variety of kids, and like, is it ever too, like, my child's way too, high functioning for this, or my child is too low functioning? But we don't even like to use those terms, but can you talk about that?
Yeah. So both my boys were very different. Brentley, when he was diagnosed at 2, was developmentally 6 to 9 months old. He was considered level 3, severe autism, lots of problem behaviors, really clear signs. If you do an MCHAT, which is a screening tool for autism, he scored as high as you can score. It was a really easy diagnosis for anyone.
It still took a year.
Yeah, it still took a long time, but yeah, I mean, and I think the evaluation was a 3-day long multi-discipline, but I mean, they could have told me in 1 minute that was his diagnosis. And Lincoln, he didn't necessarily talk on time. Like he got his milestones in different orders, but he did get them. He actually used to obsessively point, to the point where I was like, is this too much pointing? Like he would constantly be like, point, but not looking at me, but just like balloon, like point, ball. Very, very upset, very different. I was like, is that too much pointing? And or he would tell you monologues about the Stegosaurus, which was the cutest thing ever. But then he would go to a fridge and just scream and not understand that you would go to someone to ask for water, and just a true social communication delay, not necessarily a language delay. And the key is, a lot of people would look at Lincoln and really not worry or think that he's more advanced than he is. And it was so key to start as early as we did it. We started developing the toddler course with you, Mary, and really working with him a lot when he was 13 months. And now he's fully conversational, and most people probably wouldn't know, he has autism. However, I still use strategies from this course with him every day, because he's still 7 and emotional and needs positive parenting. And if you criticize him or don't use 8 positives to every negative, like you teach in the courses, you might as well just forget your day, because he will turn. And so that's such a key. So even though he is conversational, and generally the courses are for kids who aren't quite that conversational, the strategies still work for him too. And for Brentley, his journey, it was pretty easy. It was pretty easy to get Lincoln to sit. It was pretty easy to apply the principles and the things to Lincoln. He was a poster child. We could take a video,
Well, and you also started with Lincoln when he was 13 months. You didn't find my courses until Brentley was 2.5, head banging 100 times a day.
Yeah, that's what I'm
running into the streets. Like,
yeah. So that's what I was gonna say about Brentley is, it wasn't as easy. I remember watching the videos and thinking, how are these kids sitting? He wasn't sitting. He wouldn't talk. He was head banging. He was running in streets. I mean, my providers were not following. At the time, he was in an ABA program. And I was like, if this is ABA, what Dr. Mary Barbera is talking about, and this is ABA, like, what is going on? Because these are two very different things. And what he was in just wasn't working. And what I was starting to do at home with the courses was working once we got him sitting. And thank goodness for the community, because I was asking that question every day, like, he won't sit, he won't sit, he won't sit.
I remember because you weren't our community manager, so it was pretty much me. And I remember Michelle posting about the 500 words that her daughter got in like the course. I was like, what? I mean, I know my stuff works, but like that sounds, I'm like, I have to get, but I remember you, Kelsey, posting that your son wouldn't sit, you were through module 5, you were still really, or, wherever you were through, he wouldn't sit. And I think he didn't like potato head, or he was throwing potato head or something. And so I actually coached you a little bit, reminded you of this and that. And, we never force kids to sit at a table or to learn. And I remember like a couple weeks later or maybe it was a month or 2 later. I mean, it was slow. You got through 60 days and he still was like not sitting or barely sitting. But towards the end there, I remember then you posted a picture of Brentley out in the community on like some bridge with potato head playing with it. And I'm like, wow, going from like needing a leash and a harness and not sitting and throwing potato head to like taking potato head out in the community and being close to water and being safe. And I mean, maybe that was months later, but I remember those little.
No, it was pretty close. Once we figured out the reinforcement and the pairing, and I used to carry, I still have it, this like huge fanny pack everywhere. Before they were cool, they're apparently cool again. But I used to carry this fanny pack with me with, bubbles and cars and everything to keep them safe out in the community. And once I learned how to really reinforce small steps of him sitting, which you teach in the courses, I was able to use those same strategies to give him small bits of reinforcement in the community so he could be safe, and we could go out. I mean, as a single mom, staying home wasn't a choice. Like, he had to come to the grocery store. He had to come to the things we were doing. And, you know, it wasn't a fight anymore. It wasn't
Mhm.
unsafe anymore. And that was really the biggest thing. And he stopped self-injuring, you know, due to not being able to communicate. So
Right.
yeah, we had a lot of big wins, but it wasn't as easy. I mean, and for the people who say, you know, this course won't work for me because my kid will never sit, you know, we do hear that a lot. And the kids sit because we're not forcing them to sit. We make it an oasis. We make it the best place in the room to be. And they might not sit day 1. They might not sit day 30, but you'll be one step closer every day to where they're going to
Right.
be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have an incredible story, and you know, single mom of 2 kids, both on the spectrum, and now you take them all over, right? You have
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
adventures than anybody I know.
We went last weekend to a natural water slide, which is like a slide down a rock into a big river thing. And I used rainbow. I was like, okay, we're gonna go. You know, it might look scary, but we're gonna go and we're gonna do it first, and then we're gonna get this. And both kids at first were kind of like, this is weird, but then they both sat down and did it. And it's a running water, and Brentley knows now to go down the river and let himself float a bit and swim to the side. And you just say side, and he'll swim to the side. And so, yeah, the courses were really, really helpful. And now we can do anything mostly.
Yeah, which is amazing.
So I have another question,
Okay.
but before I answer or ask, I just want to say, like, I love this conversation, and I love, like, even just hearing each of our stories again and how it's made such a difference in our lives. I love that we're able to share that, and I really hope we get more people to join us so that we can hear how it changes their lives too.
Yeah.
So here's one. My son right now literally copies everything that other people do. We've tried everything to get him to talk, but he gets angry, he yells, he screams, he gets frustrated. Do you have something in this course that can help us with that?
Yeah, the whole course, like the whole thing. I mean, no matter if you know, have problems with talking, problems with screaming, problems, you know, usually kids don't imitate, but if you are hyper imitating or hyper focusing, like I've worked with kids. I've been in the autism world for over 25 years because my oldest son Lucas just turned 27. And then I've been a behavior analyst for 2 decades now. And I have worked with so many kids that, you know, kids that said, "Are you happy?" You know, obsessively, like 48 times in 10 minutes. And I'm like, where did that come from? You know, I walked into a classroom once and they said, "Okay, whatever you do, don't say okay." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And then I said okay to another student, and this other kid that I wasn't allowed to say okay in front of until I figured it out, you know, came over and kicked me. I was like, how does this behavior get shaped up? Like, how does someone start obsessively imitating, but then not talking? And we don't have to figure out why it happened or how it happened. You're probably making some of the 5 mistakes I talked about in yesterday's webinar or in day 3 of more talking, the same 5 mistakes. But um, but what we need to do, no matter how it happened or why it happened, there's no sense coulda, shoulda, woulda, beating yourself up. None of that. We don't. We're moving forward. So wherever your child is at, you do the digital assessment. You do other assessments. We have more assessments in the course. You know, if they have problems sleeping, problems eating, we help you with assessments with all that. And then we make a plan. And it might be just ignoring the obsessive imitation. It might not. Like, we don't program for your child. We just teach you how to look at the situation differently and how to move forward with your own child. We are ethically and legally not allowed to tell you exactly what to do because we know like 1% of the situation. Um, but I think we're demonstrating here that it can work for all kids with all different strengths and needs combos. And I'm just going to put the link up. We are officially closing up this offer to move forward with this huge cohort from the 5-day group. Those of you listening that, want to hop on board with our cohort, you're welcome to. You're all going to start at different points with your children or clients. If you're a professional, you can use this for your clients now, your clients in the future, your own kids, whether they're typically developing like Rachel's kids or have autism like Kelsey's kids. You can use this everywhere you go. And you can get all the details. You'll see when you go to this, you'll see Everett's picture, Rachel's son. And then you'll see a join now button. You can hit on that, or you can look at all the content on that page with information. And then you can hit on that. And then underneath the pricing is 4 buttons. If you're a toddler parent, you push that button. If you're early intervention professional, you push that button. Those both go to the toddler preschooler course. Then we have the school age course for if you're working with kids over 6. Now, if you have a couple of kids, one that's 7, one that's 2, both on the spectrum, or the 2-year-old showing signs, or if you're a professional who works with a wide range, I'd probably do the toddler course over the school age course, just because that we have more of a history. It's been revised several times. And the earlier you can treat delays or differences, the better. You can use it's all the same content, but I would just have a slight preference for joining the toddler course if you have multiple kids or clients. Rachel, any other questions?
Any burning questions? No, just a lot of like positive comments too about people who, think this will work. And someone who's in Sri Lanka has listened to all the podcasts and they're so helpful.
Well, let me give you that point. Listening to every podcast, that seems to be a theme now, right? So we are at like 240 podcasts, and Ruth, who we featured one of the days in the coaching week, Ruth in the fall listened to every single podcast, and she's a 5-year-old with moderate to severe autism. And I was like, you listen to every single podcast? You need to get out of what I call the sea of free, and you need to get into our community, because no one has time to waste, especially if you have a child with moderate to severe autism. Like, she was making progress with the free information, but not nearly the progress she could have been making with the course. And so I calculated the other day, 220 episodes. It's about 165 hours of free content that Ruth took in. The course, it only takes 15 hours, and it gives you step-by-step guidance. So whether you're listening from another country or listening from, my backyard, you don't have that kind of time to be waiting around, not just in my information, but everybody's information. My YouTube videos have been viewed 8 million times, which is great, but you need to know step by step what to do. And when you get stuck, when your child throws potato head, or your child runs into the street, God forbid, or bangs their head, or isn't talking, or is self-injurious behavior like Michelle's daughter, scratching herself until she bled, only having 2 words in an hour, you need to do something. And I think that something is very much a part of joining now. And, if you decide to go back to the sea of free, use this information, God bless you. I want the best for you. So if you're able to use the free information, make progress, that's amazing. But if you can invest some more time and some more financing, it is an investment, but it'll pay you back tenfold if you do it and you purchase, join the community, watch the modules. And if you get stuck, raise your hand. We will help you get unstuck. And I think it's a very exciting time for me. It's exciting, and I really thank Rachel, Michelle, and Kelsey for helping me create the coaching week, for helping me deliver the coaching week, for being over in our communities. We have a toddler and a school age community to offer support. We are doing all of this with a very, very small team. So I really appreciate their help. And whoever comes along with us, I know you'll have success in the end if you participate. Um, and for those of you that choose that it's not the right time, I wish you all the best. And thank you for those of you that invested in the 5-day coaching week. It's been a lot of fun, and we have seen a lot of transformation just in the 5 days. So I'm wishing you all the best. We are going to be archiving this group tomorrow and moving the videos over to our membership portal. If you have any questions on the Join Now page, you can scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a chat feature. You can chat or send us an email. And if you need help deciding if it's now's the right time or which course or anything like that, we're here for you. And we're excited to welcome a new cohort. We don't do live cohorts very much, so I'm super excited to see. I really believe that this cohort of people is going to be our next success stories, and to add to the momentum of. We're really thinking this is more of a movement of changing the way autism is detected and treated around the world, and improving speech and language, and decreasing tantrums, and improving picky eating, sleeping, potty training. There's really nothing like my courses out there. So I'm inviting you to come join us and come be a part of this really exciting cohort. So thank you guys, Rachel, Michelle, and Kelsey, for joining us. I think I know I enjoyed hearing your stories, and I'm sure our audience did too. And if you're watching the replay, just leave us a comment if you have any questions, and we'll be trying to monitor that today as well. So thanks so much, and talk to you later. Hope to see your introduction in our community today too. So make sure when you join, when you invest in the program, that you join the Facebook groups and you introduce yourself, and we will we'll guide you from there. That's our job. All right. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.